book besties, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Kyan and this is Kyan is Booked. We are going to honor the month that we're in just a little bit more. So obviously these series Saturdays are going up in October, and I love spooky season and I love paranormal romances, and I thought this would be a really great time to introduce anybody who doesn't already know to the Stay a Spell series by Juliette Cross. So this is a 6-book series and it follows the Savoy sisters, and there are 6 of them, and they are of varying different levels of witches. So like some of them have the power to do this, some of them have the power to do that type deal, but they're very powerful. They live in New Orleans, and New Orleans has kind of, you know, always been this like idea that like there's been like paranormal stuff happening in New Orleans, etc., etc. So this is like actually a really cool place for it to be set, because it really kind of feeds into the idea of like witchcraft and like voodoo and all that kind of stuff. So they actually own a shop. Can I remember the name right now? No, I can't remember the name, but they have a shop that they all run together, and they kind of like sell different like witchy things, and people think it's like more so just like a trinket type deal to like go there like when they're in New Orleans and things like that. But the locals all know that like the Savoy sisters are who you go to like when you need powerful witches to help with like a situation, right? So we start off with Wolf Gone Wild, and this book follows Mateo and Evie. And in her coven, it is a rule that like you're not allowed to like fall in love, date, marry, etc., like werewolves, right? Mateo like shows up, and he's a really hot werewolf, right? And our girl's like, but he needs our help because he hasn't been able to shift recently into his wolf form, and he needs a very powerful witch, and like she is the witch who is going to be able to help him with what ails him in this situation, right? And this is their love story. It's a story of them, a story of her helping him with like this specific issue of like being able to shift, and then her kind of like pushing past the prejudices that people have about werewolves. Oh, a book fell over. I was like, anyways, kind of pushing back the prejudices that people have about werewolves, and like really getting to know like Mateo and like who he is at his core, and allowing him the opportunity to like really woo her and like prove to her that not all werewolves are the same. I absolutely loved this one. Like if you know, you know, like, but I love like paranormal, like vampires, werewolves, all that kind of stuff, but like wolf shifters are always like gonna be my favorite, and this is of no exception. Okay, so the next one is Don't Hex and Drive, and this follows Isadora Savoy and Deverod Kumar. So he is a legendary vampire warrior, and she is a, what do you call it? She has powers of like growth and healing. So she works with like a lot of animal shelters and like veterinary clinics and greenhouses to like help with like the healing power and all of that kind of stuff. And Devereux has been around for like 300 plus years. He's this like really big bad like vampire dude, like vampire warrior. And he's in town because he's friends with another vampire who lives in New Orleans, and they kind of cross paths, and it's kind of the situation of they're instantly attracted to each other. Like it's a like almost like magnets coming together. And I believe, what do we call it? They're working, oh yeah, okay, so they're working on a case together. So there's like a lot of like, I don't want to say like forced proximity basically, but you know, really comes down to the fact that like the two of them really like believe that they're supposed to be together. And I'm not saying the other books aren't steamy in this series, but like I really felt like from like a steam perspective that Isadora and Devereux like really encapsulated that like within their relationship. So that's book 2. Book 3 is Witches Get Stitches, and if you can't tell, like, I love the names of this series too. So this follows Violet and Nico, and Nico is absolutely obsessed with her, and we've been kind of seeing like that in previous books because like we've known Nico since book 1, and he has really like strong feelings for Violet, and he's been like on this slow like train of like seduction, trying to get her to like pay attention to him or like go on a date dinner with him or like spend time with him, and he's unwilling to give up. And so he's been like after her for a bit now, and she opens up her own tattoo shop, and she's a powerful seer, and she's able to cast spells essentially. And the idea here is they've been working on a way to what do you call it, like to essentially put spells within a tattoo in order to help the werewolves like gain more control over their ability to shapeshift essentially. And so she owns her own tattoo shop. Nico goes to work there, and he's just like, no, like I know she's mine, and like my wolf knows that she's mine as well, and there's not really a lot you can tell they're wolves. And so he's like, no, like I'm gonna make this happen. And from like a color aspect, like this is one of my favorite colors just because I like the purple and the light blue together, but also to another one of my favorites because it does have a werewolf in it. Always practice safe hex follows Livy and Gareth. So this is like our first opportunity to kind of see like the Grims within the series, like Grim Reapers essentially, and like what their powers look like, and how they're actually able to like assist society, especially the paranormal community, more than they've like really been given credit for in the past. And I think that it's a really beautiful story of kind of like, rather than making snap judgments about people, like really taking the time to understand who they are and to like get to know them as people versus like who like their designation in the paranormal community. There we go. That's what I was trying to get to. So this one, so she has like, she's very charismatic, and she's able to like, she's a natural gift of like persuasion essentially. And then Gareth is partnered with her during a public relations contest, and obviously becomes like a much bigger plot line. But yeah, so this one was like a really good time, and I really loved being able to like understand what Grims are, because they've always been like very much a secret to us, like as the reader and to the Savoy sisters, but also to like really take the time to like understand who they are and like kind of see like how they meld into the paranormal community, and how they should also be like really given the opportunity to be a part of the community versus always having to be on the fringes. Resting Witch Face is Jules and Ruben. Okay, so this one is like the slow burn of all slow burns. So Jules is the older sister, and she's like the leader of the Savoy Coven, and Ruben is the leader of the Vampire Coven in New Orleans. And 12 years ago they were together, and some things happened, and then now they haven't ended up, like they're still not together, but they've always been like back and forth. Like you can obviously tell that they want to be with each other, and like for whatever reason, whatever's holding them back, they haven't been able to be together. And it's very delicious. Like I said, very slow burn. Ruben and Deborah from the second book are really good friends, and so like he sees his friend getting married and like having a family and like all the things that Ruben wants, and the problem is though is like he only wants them with Jules. So they're going on this campaign to have the werewolves added to the supernatural community council, and so they spend a lot of like time together, like in different covens and in different places, like where they both have to have each other's back. So it's like a really, really cool dynamic, but also too, just like this really great time for them to kind of really discuss how they ended up the way that they ended up and what they want for their future. So like, I really did think, I was really nervous for my werewolves because I really did think this was going to be my favorite in the series. Strong contender though. Maybe one day I'll do a video of like ranking all of them. Okay, so we have the final sister, Clara, and then we have Henry, and Henry is also a Grim, and he's really good friends with, I actually think they're cousins, with Gareth. And Clara and Henry have had, sorry, it's Grim and Barrett. And Clara and Henry have had this like really cute like back and forth thing, and you can kind of tell that like she's really into him and then like he's really into her, but the sisters are really overprotective of her because she's the youngest of the group, and like she's very trusting, and they're worried that she's going to get herself into a situation that really just hurts her feelings, and like they don't want to see that for her, right? But Clara is convinced that he is the one for her and that things will work out eventually, if not right this second, but like eventually work out. So she is trying to trust in the fact that her and Henry are meant to be together. And we've been like watching this burn since like into the first book. So we've really anticipated Clara and Henry being together. And I will say that like it was totally worth waiting through the whole series to like get to their book, because I really like love their dynamic. And I love the fact that like Henry carries a lot of like, shame feels like a really heavy word for it, but he knows that like he knows what he is, and he's just kind of like, oh, like you shouldn't want to be around me, blah blah, like you have your pick of it. But you know, Claire's like, no, like you're the one for me, like I know you're gonna care for me, I know you already care for me. And she's like the light to his darkness, and that's probably the best way that I can explain it. So that is the Stay a Spell series by Juliette Cross. And this is very much like a beautiful story of like, yes, the six sisters are family, but also too like just like the found family of the paranormal. So here they all are together. The paranormal community, and then adding the guys, and then like people start having kids, and so it's like really building on that like next generation of the paranormal community. And also too, it's like this really beautiful story about like, as they add people to their found family, like really kind of understanding like the stigma around like certain creatures within the paranormal community, and working really hard to like break those stigmas and allow all of them to be even and equal, and kind of like really fighting against the council, if you will, to like understand like how important it is for like all of the paranormal creatures to have a voice within the council. So I really liked it. It's one of my favorite paranormal series. And I definitely think that it fits like Halloween and like spooky vibes. So if you've been like kind of looking for a series that's like witchy and like brings you into like the really fun like New Orleans style world, but also to like they're legit witches and like they're marrying like essentially their mates, then like I highly recommend this series because a lot of these relationships really do feel like fated situations. So that is our series Saturday for today. So the Stay a Spell series by Juliette Cross. Let me know if you pick it up and what you think of it. I will probably do a video here in the next couple months of like ranking my favorite couples in this one. But definitely the two werewolf books would be tied because I love a good werewolf romance. So as always, thank you so much for watching. If you have not had a chance to subscribe yet, I would love to have you as part of my little community. And I will, as always, catch you in the next video. Bye.